Vaishnav, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Vaishnav. I'm currently a junior at UT Austin. I'm studying finance, and I've been in Houston, Texas since I was in the third grade. So really excited about space travel since Houston is a space city, and I'm excited to talk to you today, Nathan. Cool.
Where were you before third grade?
So we lived in Boston, and then
Oh,
before
okay.
that, New York, and then a bunch of other places.
Do you remember the snow?
I do. I actually went up to Colorado and Wyoming a few weeks ago, so saw the snow again recently.
Do you miss it?
I do. I feel like it really makes winter, it just gives it another layer. It feels a lot more Christmassy, and the vibe is different. I think it's nice.
So how much shoveling did you do?
I mean, I was way too young to even lift up a shovel, but I'm sure my parents did a whole lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We were up there 1 year and we came back, so.
No. Sorry, go ahead.
No worries. What do you know about what's happening in space right now?
Yeah, I actually don't know too much. I just know that there are a few companies that are making a lot of headway. We talked about SpaceX a little bit earlier. I know Blue Origin is not as public with what they're doing, but they're doing some great work. I know Virgin Galactic is also doing a little bit of work. I know NASA has a big plan as well. But I just have a very surface level understanding. I haven't dove too much. I also know space mining is going to be a big thing as well.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That and generating energy in space
Right.
and beaming it back somehow. But did you know that NASA is planning to send people to the moon in 2024?
Yeah, I knew about that. Yeah, that's very cool.
How did you find out?
Yeah, I watched the video. I think my cousin is really interested in space travel.
Oh, which one?
So he actually lives in Dallas.
Okay.
I think he's in 4th grade or 5th grade now, but he has like his own prototype of like NASA rockets and stuff. But
Oh wow, I'd
Yeah.
love to get in touch with them.
yeah, I'll connect you guys. I think he'd love to talk to you. But he was like, actually, I think I showed him the video. But anyway, I showed it to him, and like it's just really cool how NASA is planning to go to the moon and actually build a colony there and have people, humans live there and then use that as a place to get started to more, travel and go to other planets. So I think it's a very exciting time to be a young person, but just in general, just to be on Earth at this time. Yeah.
So what do you think about us going back to space? I know you said you were excited about it. Some people are like, well, we have global climate change and poverty, and why are we spending money to send people to the moon whenever we have problems down here? I mean, not many people that I've talked to say that, because those type of people aren't really willing to talk to somebody that's so enthusiastic about space, right? What do you think about that line of argument?
Yeah, I think there is some validity to that, but at the same time, I don't think you can stop innovation to just because there are a lot of other problems going on. I think that humankind has a sort of magnet towards evolving and making sure we're on a path to something higher than where we were a few years back. And I think that space is a very important part of that. We went to the moon so long ago, and we haven't been there in a long time. And I think it's time to kind of revisit that and then go further this time. And I think it's a very important part of discovering what humans are meant to do on this planet. I think it'll bring a lot more meaning to us as a species. And I think it's good overall for everyone on the planet. I think space will unlock a lot of potential for us. But of course, there are problems that need to be solved here as well, and hopefully space can help with that.
And I think the first time we went to the moon in 1969, we had like 3.5 billion people in the world. Now we have 7.
Yeah.
So that's like double the number of brains that are better connected together. We should be able to solve more problems than we could before.
Right.
So, have you heard of Starlink?
That's Elon Musk's company to kind of make internet worldwide, right?
Exactly. Thousands of satellites in low Earth orbit providing high bandwidth, low latency access across the globe. So if you're in the middle of Africa, South America, in the middle of the Pacific, you can have high-speed internet access, or any place in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, if they had that available now, we'd have gotten an RV and just gone during this
anywhere. Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, what do you think the futures of cities are? Because, what do we get out of them other than, riots, pollution, high cost of living, pandemics? Why have cities?
Yeah. So, are you saying, like, why have cities in general?
Yeah, at all.
Yeah, I think cities are also, like a hub for innovation. If you look at, like New York City or Austin, if you look at, even Silicon Valley, I think when you do have, large amounts of people, it does like amount to a lot of problems. But there's also a lot of good that comes out of it. I mean, we all have iPhones and smartphones nowadays. That all comes from a certain area of the United States. Where there are large cities and large amounts of people. So I think it's a very important part of how we connect and come together and come up with new ideas. But there also are a lot of problems. And talking about cities, I think it'd be interesting to see how we live in space,
Right.
creating our own cities in space, seeing how that might change things. You talk about how population has doubled. It might double even more from here on because we have so much more space once we figure out how to build cities in space. So I think it's very exciting.
But it's interesting that comes up quite a bit about how the population increases, and there's two aspects of this. One's the birth rate, so if you have couples giving producing more than two children, then of course you're increasing the number of population that way, and then people living longer. Which factor do you think is going to contribute more to increasing population? People living longer or having more babies?
Yeah, I think it's going to be living longer because I think as people get more educated and there's more I feel like when the way that we think about things on kind of the western part of the world, once that starts kind of dispersing to third world countries and places like India and other parts of the world, I think that the amount of children people have will go down, but I think life expectancy will go up just because there's so much innovation in like the telehealth space and just so many other ways that we're kind of prolonging how much we live. So I think it's going to be people living longer, but I do think it's going to take time for people to get the education to not have as many children, and it's going to take time for that to happen.
Now, young people are kind of fearless. They take a risk. They come up with new ideas.
Right.
Older people tend to be risk averse, stuck in their ways, doing things that they learned maybe decades before. What do you think that will do to our society whenever it's mainly made up of older people?
Yeah. I think it's a generational thing. I think it's really difficult to say this, but like as a young person myself, I feel like I've grown up with technology, and I have an understanding of how it might progress because it has progressed so much ever since I was a kid, and I've seen it with my own eyes. And so since I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to be a part of the initial phases of how technology's impacted our lives, I think that it might be a little easier for our generation to adapt to how technology might advance in the future. And so I think we might be a little less rigid than I guess an older generation nowadays. But I think it's going to be interesting. I think that like that willingness to change is gonna increase as generations go on. Just because I feel like just because globalization and interconnectedness has also increased so much that there are just so many viewpoints that we get to explore and kind of understand. I don't want to say we're more open-minded, but I think that we have the opportunity to be more open-minded. So I think that might lead to more less rigidity in terms of viewpoints.
But are you more open-minded because of your age, and that will kind of go away as you get older, or you think you're like fundamentally something's different about your cohort and peers?
I think it might be a little bit more of the latter, just because I feel like my parents growing up, for example, like when they were living in India, they only really got exposed to people in their city and maybe when they had relatives come in or when they traveled to other places. But now if I open up my phone and I go on Twitter or the internet, I can see what someone in Africa is thinking, or someone in India, or someone in Europe, and that really exposes me to like how different people see different sorts of problems and aspects and issues. And so I think that I feel like our generation has a little bit more how do I word this? Just that I think we might be a little bit more open-minded, or at least, willing to accept other people's opinions, or even recognize that there are other opinions on issues, just because we just have we have access to them through the internet. So I think it might be a little bit of the latter.
Yeah, I mean, the internet's a great way to kind of allow for you to be exposed to people across the globe without having to have the expense or risk of traveling there.
Right.
It's kind of neat. But also another side of it, you mentioned Twitter. Now I know that Twitter, you don't see everything that people like share with you. Instead, at the top, you see things that are things that Twitter thinks you would be interested in.
Right.
Now, that allows for us to live in like our own self-reinforcing information bubble.
Right.
What kind of risks do you see there?
I think there's a lot of risk. I think the biggest risk is like misinformation, and I think we started to see that a lot ever since 2016, and even this election as well. I think it was a really big issue. It's coming into the limelight. I think social media companies are getting a lot of responsibility, and it's not really warranted. It's not really warranted. It's just that they have to deal with it because they have so much power now and they have so much influence. So I don't know if they're well equipped to deal with the issues of misinformation and making sure that people aren't reinforcing detrimental viewpoints. So I think it's gonna be very interesting. I also don't see how the government's gonna be able to be proactive in dealing with these issues. I feel like people that are in positions of power in government are a little outdated with technologies and they don't really have a very good grasp on them. And so kind of getting those people up to speed as well is going to be a very, very big part of it in my opinion.
What do you think about, they might not be necessary to, go and censor and critique everything that's posted, but there's a lot of fake accounts, people who create thousands and thousands of accounts, and they use those accounts to kind of manipulate the algorithms to push content up and what have you. I mean, it seems like a good first step they could do is make sure that, on one hand, you want people to have an account that's identified as being them. And I could see the usefulness of having an anonymous account, because sometimes, in China, for example, you might want to be talking about things that could get you in trouble. So there's a challenge there. But if we did have everybody was tied to an actual physical individual, it seems that would go a long way to solving part of the problem.
Yeah, there's actually, we have a family friend who actually started a social media platform called Apoon. Apoon, A-P-O-O-N. Okay. And basically to create, it's like a social media, and to create an account you have to have, you have to use an ID and you have to get verified. And so that way, you can't create multiple accounts. Because you have to verify the ID at one point. So I think that there are going to be solutions to deal with that, but I think Facebook and all these big social media giants, they've been filled with so many of these fake accounts over so many years at this point. It's going to be very difficult to sort through them. It's going to be interesting to see how they deal with it in the future as well.
Yeah. Well, so what do you know about SpaceX?
I just know Elon Musk is a phenomenal person, and they're doing a lot of stuff in Houston and Brownsville, and they sent someone to the International Space Station earlier this year. So I know they're doing a lot of great work. I don't know too much about the specific models and what process they are, but I also know like you mentioned, they're doing they're making travel within the globe from country to country a lot shorter now. So a lot of exciting stuff going on.
Have you heard of another company called Blue Origin?
Yeah, so that's Jeff Bezos' company, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I've actually gotten to talk to 4 Blue Origin people here. So one of the members of our North Houston Space Society, he got laid off from his oil and gas job, and he always dreamed of moving into aerospace, and he was a project manager. Big industrial project management work, a lot of similarities between places. He applied to Blue Origin, got that, and now he's over there, and connecting me to some people is kind of neat.
Yeah, I just know they're very secretive. With SpaceX, I think Elon Musk does a pretty good job of making sure the public knows what's going on, at least to some extent, at least to what's warranted. But with Blue Origin, it seems like everything's very secretive. So do you know why he's doing that? Is it just to kind of cut off competition, or?
The Blue Origin folks that I talked to, we did explore this topic about how Elon's out there and everybody's going that, and they said they pretty much have the philosophy of, instead of talking about what they're going to do, talk about what they've done. And so in 2021 is supposed to be the first flight of their New Glenn rocket, which is their orbital class rocket. So they should start launching satellites next year, reusing the first stages like SpaceX does. It'd be interesting to see how long it takes for them to be successful. It took a while for SpaceX to figure that out. So I think a lot of things look great on paper, but whenever whenever you actually have that rocket flying through the air, you can't make adjustments. anyway, I'm not really sure why they're not more vocal. I mean, I would have expected for all of us to be flying on that new Shepard rocket, you know, the one that.
No, I don't.
So they have like this. I think it's a 6-person capsule on a completely reusable rocket. It uses liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen too. It goes above the atmosphere, and you can see the blackness of space. You get about, you know, maybe 4, 5, 6 minutes of free fall, so you're weightless in that time. And then the capsule comes back down. From takeoff to landing is like 15 minutes.
Wow.
But you know, the idea is it's basically a direct competitor of Virgin Galactic, which, you know, has their carrier aircraft, like the little rocket plane that takes you up there. But I would have expected for them to be launching people by now. But I think this whole Artemis thing and the lunar lander, and then also the other things they have going on probably made them shift priorities to those things. So
You know how much that's going to cost?
no, they haven't said anything about the cost. People, I mean, it might be affordable.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know you mentioned Virgin Galactic is a pretty big price tag.
Yeah, and recently in the Virgin Galactic's, you know, investor call, they were saying they were planning to significantly increase rates, and some people are expecting for it to go from like 250 to like 400 and something.
Is it just to break even, or?
Yeah, I mean, they want to build more of the, you know, the rocket planes and the carrier crafts, and they, you know, have all these people queued up to buy tickets. So maybe that's what the market to bear type thing. Like, you know, if you want to go in the next couple of years, yeah. I mean, because I think most of the people that sign up for it are like, you know, multi-millionaires.
Yeah.
Even
You kind of have to be.
yeah, but I mean, really, even if you're like, you know, a millionaire, 250,000 is like 25% of your net worth.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be only comfortable of spending maybe like 5% of my net worth for such a thing. So just doing the math on that, you know, I would have to be 8 million or higher, I think, right? Is that right?
Be 20, yeah.
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 So
That's insane. Yeah. So, do you think the government is going to subsidize, you know, any of these folks at any point?
well, so NASA, I think one reason why we haven't seen development in space is this whole concept of cost plus contracting,
Okay.
where NASA decides what they want to do, you know, build. They go off and get like these big aerospace contractors like Boeing and Lockheed Martin, and they say, you know, we're going to pay what it costs, whatever it costs, plus a little bit extra for your profit. And in those cases, these companies are not incentivized to actually move quickly or do things cheaply.
Right.
And they're also incentivized to, since they're such big, you know, contracts, to basically do extra testing. You know, they basically get more money with less risk by not flying than by flying. Now, what NASA's like shifting to are like these fixed bid contracts where they paid for a fixed service for a fixed price. So like if you look at the, you know, the Dragon, the Crew Dragon, NASA pays $55 million per astronaut delivered to the International Space Station. So whatever it costs SpaceX doesn't matter. If it costs them $20 million to do it or $60 million, they're still only going to pay $55 million. And so, you know, SpaceX is incentivized to try to bring down the price, increases the amount of profit they have.
Right.
And the same thing's true. There's like this new program called the Commercial Lunar Payload Services Program, which is like the similar type of thing, but it's for getting like payloads to the surface of the moon. And next year, Intuitive Machines, based here in Houston, and Astrobotic, based in Pittsburgh, are both sending probes to the moon. And the requirements for them is just to get the NASA payload to that spot. They're responsible for creating the craft, for figuring out how to get into orbit, how to get it to the moon. And by the way, if there's any additional capability or capacity on that craft, they can do whatever they want to with it. And Astrobotic is doing this promotion with DHL, and they have a DHL Moonbox. So like for $450, you get a micro SD card sized object and send it to the surface of the moon, which I paid for, and this video is going on. So you're going to the moon next fall.
Hey guys, on the moon.
On the moon, yeah. So whenever you're up there for a family vacation or something,
fingers crossed.
Yes, exactly. I keep telling the nephew that you saw leave, James, that I'm going to retire on the moon. He's like, you can't go to the moon, stay here on Earth, you know, stuff like that. But I think it may not actually be that unrealistic. I think it may be possible
I do
to
too.
retire on the moon by the time I get ready to retire, which I never plan to retire, so that's not really saying much.
So, like, let's say, NASA, does create a successful colony on the moon. How many, okay, first of all, I guess the first part of the question is, how long is that going to take for them to, like, have a colony that's self-sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, the thing right now is NASA's plans are just to kind of be able to access the moon once a year, the surface, between like 2024 and 2028. And pretty much everybody thinks the 2024 date's not happening, because that date was really picked so that it would be like the last year of Trump's term. And, the Biden administration's come in, these contractors are going to push for more time and everything.
Right.
And so, people think that's going to slip. But then, assuming that, in 2028, the idea is then have like sustained operations like we do with the International Space Station. And really, at this point, it's about proving out the basic technology, prospecting. I mean, like the plans to do the colony haven't even been thought of yet. Right now, it's just, I mean, what you got to think of, this is somebody trekking to like South America,
right.
or not South America, but Antarctica.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
They're like going across the snow,
Yeah.
and they're going to set up a little base that have some
Right.
really highly specialized people. So, I think a moon colony. I mean, I really think you're probably looking at 20, 40 years for that.
Wow.
So I think the Chinese actually might be the first colony
so?
out there. I mean, the thing is, people, the last time we went to the moon, had astronauts actually walk on the surface of the moon?
Was it 69? Or?
69 is the first time.
I don't know the last time.
1972.
Okay.
And most people say, oh, why didn't we keep going? Why did we stop?
Right.
And do you have any thoughts?
I do not know.
I think that it occurred to me
Was it
that
the Cold War? Or?
It was during the Cold War. We were like trying to get to the moon to beat the Russians.
Right.
And I think that's kind of like the key part is we stopped going to moon because it was no longer worth it. Because the objectives that we were able to rally around was beating the Russians, who beat them, mission accomplished,
Right.
move on to something else. And plus the other thing is, for a cost-benefit analysis, the cost was extreme, the benefit was really low, what to do. Now, with this return to the moon, a lot of people are really emphasizing, getting the first woman back to the moon, which I think is a great goal. The problem with that, as being like your tagline, is that after the first woman walks on the moon, that mission accomplished, why go? You're not like creating this concept of developing resources in space for like long-term utilization for the benefit of humanity. And China is. I mean, they see it as part of like, they're considering like space to be like the South China Sea, strategic resources that whoever gets there first will control. And, they're taking the long view of 100 years from now, 200 years from now, whenever the solar system is very active and they want to be in a commanding place. And so I think they don't need to as much get that buy-in because they're an authoritarian state. But it seems like that, they're thinking along those terms, at least. And you don't see that type of wide... I haven't found in these interviews people thinking about space as being a strategic resource.
Yeah, I don't know anything about what China's been doing.
Yeah.
I just know that it's, like, we don't know too much about China's worldview. And like the philosophy that they would push on if they did have a commanding power in the world. And I think space definitely opens up a playing field that is kind of level at the moment, and it's gonna be tough if China gets there first and they have a commanding power. I don't know, like I said, I don't know how much like what China is doing and what their plans are, but it's very interesting to hear that you think that they might be the first ones to, I guess, like get moving on a colony. And if that is the case, what's the U.S.'s plan to make sure that they're not left in the dust?
I know, and it's kind of interesting to say that. The U.S.'s plan to make sure it's not left in the dust doesn't necessarily mean that you beat China at the game of developing space. I mean, how often have you heard about events in like Iran and other places that were meant to set back various programs, these sabotage and that type of thing, because you're trying to be kept from getting left in the dust. there's two ways to do that. One is run faster. The other way is to make the other guy run slower.
Right.
And I think the U.S. Unfortunately probably would find it easier to make the other guy run slower than to run faster.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really scares me. Is how do we make sure that we kind of compete for the prize, try to get to the prize quicker instead of just trying to keep the other guy from getting to the prize.
Right.
That whole metaphor about you could put a whole bunch of crabs in a bucket, they could climb out, but anytime one of them starts climbing out, the other ones pull them back.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you avoid that? And that concerns me. But China, just this month, they had a probe return from the moon with, I think it was several kilograms of moon rocks. So the last time that was done by any country was in the 1970s.
Wow.
They have a rover that's operating on the far side of the moon that has been there for over a year and the thing is the moon has a 14-day day and a 14-day night, and in the night it goes to like several negative 100 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
And a lot of equipment just doesn't survive through the night, but they've been able to make their equipment survive those harsh conditions. And they're talking about having humans on the moon in the 2030s. And, I think their plans are probably, in some respects, very solid. I think our plans could be solid, but, I still think that that our political institutions and the general public see space as a matter of pride instead of a matter of opportunity and development. So it's kind of a challenge.
Yeah, how do you change that perception?
I think education. I think, the idea, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think the idea that the Earth is like a little bitty ball, in space going around the sun, and
Right.
there's like all this stuff happening out there is not something that many people know about or think about or really consider. I think the Earth, in a lot of people's minds, I think this also goes to global climate change. This looks huge. You walk in any direction, it looks indestructible, right? It's like, how can little people do anything bad to this?
Right.
Yeah. How good? Yeah. So, but if you look at it from the moon, it's just like a little tiny marble. Or even from like a Virgin Galactic flight, you see that thin atmosphere keeping us safe from the void. So, but
Yeah, I feel like even this conversation, like I don't want to say I feel ashamed, but I definitely feel like I need to know more about what's going on, like because there's just so much like innovation and exploration going on, and it's definitely going to change the way that we live as humans. And I feel like it's like, similar to how, in like the mid to early, 60s, a lot of people were like the space race, and, they were going to work at NASA, and it was this whole big thing. I feel like, young people like me should also be, feeling the same way about how space is this great opportunity, like you said, for us to really, change the course of humanity. And I don't know why it's not getting as much attention as it is. I think, people like SpaceX, and companies like Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin are doing a good job of kind of like, I guess, cooking up that sort of excitement, enthusiasm. But I definitely think education is a very important part of it as well.
I think the number one thing that's going to increase people's enthusiasm is the possibility of personally participating in it.
Right.
Like, as long as it's like astronauts that are very selective going,
Right.
and that like there's like almost a zero chance that you or I could go,
Yeah.
and then it really dulls down our interest. But with SpaceX and Starship, and the price comes down, and you can go to space for a few $100,000 for a week. I can see people saving up box tops and coupons and whatever to get to that. But if it was safe and affordable, would you go to space?
For sure.
Now,
For sure.
there's this. Have you ever heard of Space Hero?
No.
Okay, so this is something that is going to be announced more next year. But there's this worldwide reality TV show contest that the winner of which will get to go to International Space Station for 10 days. And I know some of the people involved in it, and it seems really credible to me. So I'm really excited about the potential for everybody at least having a shot. And I hope that like the program is done in such a way that even the people that participate and don't go feel better off for it. But is that something you see yourself potentially doing?
Yeah, it's called Space Hero. Who is it run by?
There's like a production company in Europe that's working on putting together like the show, the financing, and everything else. I met one of the co-founders, Deborah Sass, because they had like this opportunity to be like a space hero insider.
Uh-huh.
So I applied for that, and I went to like our orientation program about a week or two ago, and they kind of gave us some of the details, and it was just really kind of exciting to see what they're doing. Then in terms of like the other production, none of them really stuck with me. As I mean, it wasn't like Netflix or what have you. I mean, those, but obviously the show would be on those channels at some point. But yeah, that's pretty much all I know right now.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping in like early part of next year, they start kind of promoting the show and kind of outline what the contest to be like and have people apply. And I think they plan to send like the first person, just in a couple of years. So it'd be kind of neat.
I'll definitely check it out. I'll look into it because it sounds interesting. It sounds very interesting, and that kind of reminds me. I think SpaceX I remember Elon Musk making an announcement that they were trying to send people to Mars in 2022. I think was the year.
Yeah, I think 2022 was when they were planning to send 2 starships to Mars with just like equipment.
Okay.
And then there's basically, Mars orbits the sun a little bit over every 2 years, and there's a particular alignment where it requires the least amount of energy to send stuff across. It still takes 6 months to make that trip. And so like he had plans of sending like 4 ships, and like 2 years after that, 2 would be like equipment, 2 would have people on it, and then kind of building up like that. But there's like this Japanese billionaire who's paid him to send a group of artists around the moon in 2023. So that would be really awesome if that happened. I think it's very possible that might happen really soon.
Right. So if he does end up sending, do you know if he's on track to send that equipment in 2022?
Well, I mean, the way Starship's coming along, it looks like it's not impossible. I mean, it would have been really great if SM8 had happened earlier and had stick didn't explode on landing. It's really difficult to say, but I would be shocked if before the decade's out, he wasn't able to send people to Mars. I think that would be kind of shocking if he wasn't able to do it. In fact, I mean, I feel like that the 2020s are going to be to space exploration development what the 1990s were to the internet. In 1990, I know this is like a long history, but you actually had to go to a physical place in your house to use the phone. Right. You actually called locations, not people. Yeah. People memorized phone numbers at that time, and trying to explain to people what email was would probably be impossible in 1990. But by 2020, everybody knew, not 2020, but by 2000, everybody knew what email was and what the web was. And, over the course of those 10 years, I mean, Amazon was founded in 1994. That's when I graduated from high school. It was an amazing time. I think this decade could be just as amazing for space exploration development. Yeah. I think in 2030, people traveling into space will be a common thing. Wow. I mean, what do you feel?
Yeah, I think humans are just innovating, progressing a lot faster. The rate of change is a lot faster now, and it's gonna only continue to grow. So I don't know too much about the current state of progress, but if you say by 2020s is like metaphorically how 1990s was to the internet, I can definitely see being a lot more widespread in the 30s, and definitely by the 40s. Like everyday people like me can definitely go up to the moon or maybe even further. But going back to the conversation about Elon Musk and Mars. So if he does, sorry, is this taking up too much time?
Oh no, I just want to make sure it actually was recording.
Okay. So
it's like that'd be horrible.
Yeah. So once he does send the materials and the payloads, is he sending like robots as well to construct it, or like is it kind of?
Elon's like, people go to him and say, "Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that?" And Elon's response in public has been, "We can't even get there yet.
Yeah.
Let's solve that problem. Once we
Yeah.
solve that problem, let's go tackle the other ones."
Yeah.
So from
Makes
Elon's
sense.
standpoint is, he's like, I'm just focused on the transportation. Other people are going to need to work on those other things.
Right.
So,
Can't do everything.
yeah, but the thing is, if we're really going to set up these colonies on other planets, or the moon and what have you, I feel like we should be setting up prototype colonies here on Earth. Trying to create little self-contained, hermetically sealed facilities where people live and work 24/7.
Right.
That they have to be completely self-contained. They have a full view of their supply chain. They have a full view of their waste chain, and they're able to recycle so much of their waste into their supply.
Right.
I mean, that is technology you don't need to go to space to figure out. That would be good to figure out here. It's just like, why aren't we creating like 100-person space colony here? I mean, not just like people who go into like the desert in like this little mock-up and pretend to be in space. I'm talking about like a real working, community where people
Right.
live and work, like as part of their normal everyday thing. They're not pretending. They just happen to live in the space facility.
Right.
Yeah, and can you imagine that with like, right now we have like this COVID thing. I mean, what if you had like some type of big, dangerous gas that was released, or nuclear waste, or what have you? I mean, to have a facility like that could also be a safe place to be, in a situation like
Right.
that as well.
Right.
And, I mean, people talk about resource depletion on the Earth. Nobody looks at a forest and say, man, they're depleting the resources in the soil or the air. Because, like, all the carbon that is in the air goes into the trees, get eaten by the animals, goes into the soil,
Right.
And it's like... Starts all over. I mean, the problem is that we don't know how to transform our waste into the materials that we need. And we've got to figure that out to do anything. And that would solve our problems there, too. I mean, trash is really should be treasure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So do you know if NASA is made advancements in these areas?
In terms of like recycling stuff?
Yeah, in terms of just like building these colonies, like making them sustainable.
I think they've been focused on like how to take carbon dioxide out of the air, but I think they've been focused on like how to recycle the water. They've done a few experiments in terms of growing food and like free fall.
Mm-hmm.
And they've done a lot of experiments in terms of small teams of people being in confined spaces for long periods of time in isolation. But I really haven't seen them do anything in terms of actual colonization development. In fact, I would say that everything that's been done has been in the order of kind of like a costume party type of thing, as opposed to to like the real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not familiar with all their plans, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that think about it, but it's amazing how much in the space community it feels like you've ever seen that cartoon where like they're working out this complex problem and then they have an answer down here and there's like a box in the middle that says miracle occurs here.
Yeah.
It's like I'm going to focus on getting to Mars, and some miracle is going to occur, and we're going to suddenly have these self-containing colonies that we send out there. The thing is, you're going to send these colonies out there and stuff is going to break, things aren't going to work the way you want.
Right, exactly.
It's just like, why not sort all as much of that out as you can here on Earth, get at least a proven prototype. I mean, like, one of the things I want to do is, I consider this like my moon base, this little lot. My thought is, I should be able, within the confines of this lot, grow all the food that I need, recycle all my water, and produce all the energy that I need. And that seems really, really difficult and daunting. But compared to like actually doing that on the moon, that's easy.
Even harder. exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't do that, then, what do you expect to do up there? And if you can do it up there, then you should start down here. Like, I want to get the aquaponics thing going. And
aquaponics is very cool.
Yeah, so I'm planning to have, like, maybe grow some tilapia and,
nice.
And lettuce and eggplants and tomatoes and stuff. We'll see.
I remember you having, like, a massive garden at your old place.
Oh, I know. So much effort with so little results.
Yeah. Wait, really? You felt like you didn't get as many results as you liked?
And it was amazing. I go over to some people's house and they like focus on like 3 or 4 plants. And those plants produce so much. And me, I'm just like, trying to get all these seeds and stuff and grow so much, but it's like not producing. So I think there's a lesson there. Maybe it's better to focus on a few things and get them produced. Maybe. And life is a process.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I have a few last questions. So how transparent really is NASA with its plans? Like, how much do they make the public aware of? Like, do they have an entitlement to make the public aware of everything that they're doing? I know it's taxpayers' dollars and things like that.
Well, I mean, one thing is any type of scientific data that NASA collects has to be made open to the public to be used for whatever.
Okay.
So if they send a probe to the moon and the data that they collect gets put onto a website, and no matter where you are, who you are, you don't even need to authenticate or what have you, you get access to those images and that data. That's like law that they make that available. In terms of their future plans, well, I mean, they do have to make that, transparent in the sense of, the Congress has to pay the money for it. And all of that's supposed to be transparent as well. I'm sure there's lots of people at NASA that have ideas that wouldn't come up to the level of plans that maybe we don't know about. But I mean, that's true any place.
Right.
The organization has people in it with ideas and plans that aren't the official ideas and plans of the organization as a whole, just because you need some incubation time and you're not going to take all of them to actually completing. So
yeah, I guess, sorry, my last, this is
no, please ask away. This is like this is my favorite topic, and the longest interview I've had was 3.5 hours, so I don't think we're at risk of going over that.
So like my last question is, like, we had this conversation. I feel like I should go do more research and learn more about these things. But like, what are your recommendations on how I should start? And the second part of the question is like, what can I do as a student to contribute to these things? Like, I'm a finance student. I'm not too STEM oriented, but I know finance is an important part of everything that goes on. So like, where are opportunities? Like, what can I do? I applied to Starlink. I applied to Blue Origin, SpaceX, all those places. Got rejected. But I definitely plan to keep on applying. And I know there's a lot of room for growth and improvement.
Yeah, those are very good questions. In terms of finding out what's going on, there's a lot of websites that I check. Space News is probably the good overall website.
Let me write these down.
Spacenews.com. But in terms of like a finance person, I was talking to a consultant yesterday who consults with like space startups. And he says, a lot of the companies he works with are really, they don't have a realistic view of things. They think they could just create the technology that they want to create, and then people just heap money on them. Like the concept of needing to have a customer to sell to is like something that a lot of these space companies don't think about.
Right.
So there's some general business needs in the community. But in terms of finance, one of the thoughts is, did you know that there's water ice on the poles of the moon?
I didn't know that there's water ice.
Yeah, so the moon has like a 1 degree tilt with respect to the sun, and has like these deep craters, and it has no atmosphere. So things that are in the shadow, it's like colder than the surface of Pluto. Any water molecules that get into there, and in these craters, because they're so deep and it has this low tilt, there's parts of those craters that are in the shadow all the time, 24/7, 366 days of the year, what have you. And over billions of years, we believe that comets have hit the moon, and water molecules, some of them got trapped in here, and there's literally like millions of tons of water ice and other material that you wouldn't expect to be in the moon that's frozen away in this place. Now, to get like a pound of stuff to the surface of the moon is like, $1 million or something like that, right? And so if you're able to get that water right there on the moon, then that's stuff you don't have to carry. Then, you can use a simple process like electrolysis to break apart the hydrogen and oxygen in the water into their constituent parts.
Right.
And then now you have rocket fuel and you have oxygen for breathable air.
Right.
And, there's some talks about, well, maybe we could use that and we can send it to like Earth orbit, because the moon has 1/7 the gravity as the Earth. It doesn't have an atmosphere. You may not even need to use a rocket to get it off of the moon. You could actually have like kind of like a rail that you accelerate it on and actually shoot it out off of the moon.
Cool.
And then, you could actually get it maybe into Earth orbit, and now spacecraft and satellites that need to be refueled, could just buy the fuel there. But now all that's expensive. Like we have zero space infrastructure when it comes to like mining and space development. I mean, we have a lot of stuff when it comes to communication, Earth observation, and stuff.
Right.
But how do you finance that? Well, I mean, one thing is eventually having a futures market for like actually being able to buy propellant or hydrogen or oxygen at a particular places in the solar system, and for companies before they even get started to be able to know, be able to buy a contract that will allow for them to sell it at a certain price to somebody.
Right.
I mean that would be
marketplaces
awesome.
have not been created, right?
You just don't have any volume and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But I mean, eventually, that may be the way that these places get financed.
Yeah. That's actually super interesting. I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's trillions of bored dollars in the global economy that are looking for something exciting to do, and it's just about all these dollars around in the like old age piggy banks going. What do you? Yeah, but seriously, I mean, I think once you make it real, like it's about creating instruments that allow for you to spread that risk and that people will buy, what have you. I mean, one big problem is you can't own anything. No government can lay claim to anything off of the Earth. So like.
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
So like no government can claim like parts of the moon or parts of Mars or solar or asteroids or anything like that.
That's like an international agreement?
It's an international agreement.
Okay.
It's the Outer Space Treaty, which was signed before we actually went there in 1969.
Oh.
So the planting of flags doesn't actually mean that you own it. It's just like, hey, I've been here.
Yeah. I was here.
Yeah, I was here. Yeah, it's but that's a big problem because like in California, I mean, what you would do is you would have these prospectors that went out there and discover where the gold was. Once they discovered, they could say, hey, I make a claim there. They would sell that claim to somebody, and that would give them the money to go and prospect some more. And then like a mining company would come along and buy that claim.
Exactly. And,
it's a key way of making it work. But, I mean, the problem we have now is I think it's going to be really easy for space-capable companies or countries who are on the moon to figure out among themselves. But what about the non-space capable companies? They might feel very much like, we don't want y'all locking it all up before we're able to get up there. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah. The moon's also so much smaller than the Earth.
It is, yeah. But the surface of the moon is the same as the surface area of the land of the Earth, if you wanted to put it in perspective. It's just the majority of the Earth is water on the surface.
Yeah, right.
And of course, underneath that's a lot, way more material than the moon.
Wait, so is the water ice on on both the poles of the moon, like it's easily? No, I don't want to say easily harvestable, but you could definitely like harvest that and then use it for whatever you want, like splitting it up or even using it for drinking and living. Or
are you talking about legally or technically?
No, just technically.
But the thing is, if they're in such a thing that's so cold, I'm just wondering if we even have equipment that can operate that level. It's all theoretical that it's there. It might be, it might be like that great toy at the toy shop behind the glass. It's like, oh, that's so cool. I wish I could
Get it? Yeah.
But people are talking about, maybe put a little tent over it, and then you beam microwaves into it, and then it causes some of the atoms to kind of warm up, and then you're able to capture that. And so, I mean, we've never done it before, so you're going to fail the first few times, but you got to keep trying, and then you figure out a way. I mean, that's the way it happens here on Earth.
Right.
Why would we? It's going to be even worse in space, because here on Earth we were born in this environment. We have our intuitive feelings about it are
right.
proven out by our day-to-day existence. So,
how do you think evolution? I mean, this is like so far in the future, but like people are going to start living in space at one point. Like, how is it going to change humans as a species?
I mean, the thing is, evolution has been natural for as long as we've known.
Right.
Just kind of like differences that, based upon the environment or other factors, you have, certain traits make some things disfavorable and less likely, and other traits make it more favorable.
Right.
We have kind of interesting situation that's occurred. We can now change our genetics. We can now engineer. I mean, like another Elon company, Neuralink. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
I mean, we can now have brain-computer interfaces that are being developed. I mean, at what point do we just go, forget the body? Let's be the starship. Let's be the rocket. Then we don't have to worry about breathing. I mean,
wow.
What does it mean to be you or me? I mean, I'm really attached to this body. I'd be sad to lose it. Right? And that's always made me wonder about people who talk about heaven or some type of afterworld existence. I mean, obviously you're in some existence that's not in your body.
Yeah.
To how much of that would be like the butterfly versus the caterpillar? Like, I'm in my caterpillar form, and now I'm going to go into my butterfly form. Well, those two things are completely disconnected from each other. I don't think they're the same person even.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of.
Do you think we have a grasp on like consciousness? At least, do we have like a baseline understanding for us to even understand how to do something like that, like transfer our consciousness?
Yeah, I think we're still trying to figure out how the brain is connected in terms of the being able to monitor it and everything. I mean, existence is such an amazing thing. The ability to have this conversation, have thoughts, and then be able to kind of like turn them into sounds that actually, based upon your sound, seem to mean something to you.
Yeah.
But that could be just my own illusion. Maybe I'm just really sitting in a room someplace going crazy, imagining all these visitors. You always had a philosophical question about, are we just like brains in a jar, and then all the senses that we have are really, I mean, that's what Elon talks about too, is, he thinks there's strong odds that all this may be like some type of simulation.
Right.
And his argument is, if you just look at like the Oculus Quest, and like our VR technology now, and it's like really immersive, right? I mean, like I put on the VR Oculus Quest 2, and I look around, and I really feels like I'm in that place, that I'm looking around. Now, if you see the same growth rate in terms of technology, what does that technology look like 100 years from now? I mean, at some point, you'll feel like you're actually in this alternate place. And then if you think about it, how much time is there after that event versus before that event? Then what are the odds of you being after that event or before that event? Because, I mean, the ultimate simulation would be one where you didn't know it was a simulation.
Yeah.
The whole Matrix type of thing, right?
That's crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, at some point you just have to say, I give up. I'm just going to believe whatever I want to. But, yeah.
Do you listen to Lex Friedman at all?
I listened. I saw The Day in the Life of Lex Friedman.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that guy. As Steven says, he's a machine. I think I watched part of the 2 Elon Musk interviews. And it's so funny. On the second one, he says the comments on the first one was that it looked like 2 robots talking to each other unsupervised. Was what somebody had left as a comment.
Comment. Yeah.
But he seems to really have a lot of discipline in terms of what he does.
He does a lot of, he has a lot of conversations about like consciousness, and he talks to a lot of like neuroscientists and psychologists and people that are like working on neural nets. Like I'll send you a few links if you'd be interested. But
I would, yeah. There's so much material that I need people to kind of like upvote or download stuff just to be able to know what to look.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'd be happy to. I listen to like a few of his stuff whenever just I have time. Like whichever, he interviews so many people. I don't know how he has time, but I'll send you a few of them. I've listened to a few of them, and the Elon Musk ones are pretty great. They're entertaining, and like I don't know how Elon Musk himself like has. First of all, I don't know how he has the time to do all this, and then second of all, like how does he understand every part of like what he does and what his companies do and like what the plans are? Because he knows from like Tesla to Starlink to SpaceX to Neuralink, like
I know, and you like look
like
at
PayPal and every like before that, like
yeah, exactly. You know, one thing that Elon says is work every waking hour.
Yeah.
So, but and still, even if I did that, I don't think I'd be at that level. What do you think it is?
Like, what's his edge?
Like, how does he do that? Is it just something that he has that other people don't, or is it something that he's developed and honed, or like what is it?
Yeah, I think part of it is something that he was just like born with, because I've like listened to like a few of like his like videos of his mother speaking about him when he was young. I read like part of his book about when he was young too. Like he read every book in his house, and then he went to the library, he read every book there, and then he said he remembered everything, like photographic memory.
Wow,
yeah,
I have trouble remember the previous page.
Yeah, same, yeah. So like I definitely think he has like a very like his intelligence level is just very high, but then on top of that, like he just has like these visions that he just works to achieve. Like he doesn't just keep it as a vision. Like he knows how to actually take action on them and like build a mission around it, get people involved. Like it's not easy just creating companies and then making them like multi-billion-dollar successful like enterprises that actually do work.
I mean, yeah, he got stuck in traffic one day and it's like, hey, why don't we have tunnels?
Exactly.
And creates the boring company.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's inspirational. At the same time, it's just like, man, like yeah.
I mean, you have like the conductor, and you have like the people that play like violin and oboe and everything else. I really feel like more of a supporting person than like a conductor.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, we need more conductors. You know, creating more entrepreneurs would be cool if you could figure out some way to make that happen.
Yeah, you're talking about like space. Yeah, like that's the other thing. Like, you're talking about how we don't even have the proper equipment to function on like space environments. Like it's just too cold.
Yeah.
Like we're kind of at like the very primitive stages of like technology. Like everything that works so well here does not work in space. Like we literally need to just like rewire everything, like reorient, and like it seems like there's so much opportunity for entrepreneurship and growth again. It's almost like a reset, like the great reset again.
Yeah, and we just have to be able to have private people or private companies be able to try different things, and some of them are going to end up in awful disasters and failures.
Right.
But I mean, right now, like NASA, you have, I think, 6 people on the International Space Station being supported by literally tens of thousands of people on Earth.
Right.
Like something breaks on the station, the astronauts don't figure out how to fix it. They figure out how to communicate with people on the ground who have a team of people that figure out how to fix it, who then either try to fix it remotely or give step-by-step instructions on how to fix it back up there. And whenever you're 15 minutes, 30 minutes delayed in communication, that's not really going to work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's way too complicated.
Yeah. Do you think socialism... Okay, so like the debate of capitalism versus socialism in like the context of space, like which would benefit space more in your opinion?
But it's so weird because we live in like a capitalistic society, but our space program is very much seems like a socialistic, single. It's not so much one or the other. I think the key part is to have competition and kind of, because you don't know how fast you're running unless you have somebody to compare you to. And also, if you have to get everybody to buy in your ideas, you're only going to have ideas that are bought into, that are widely, believed in. You're not going to have. I mean, sometimes the guy with the crazy idea turns out to be amazingly right. In an environment where he has to go and convince everybody that his crazy idea is right, it's not. Those ideas never go anywhere. I mean, he has to be able to take that crazy idea and make it happen, and people go, "Wow, well, of course that would happen." So like Elon says, he thinks it will be easier to land on the moon than to convince NASA that SpaceX can land on the moon. So
you just let your actions speak louder than your words. Huh?
I mean, everybody's from what is it, Kansas or Missouri, the Show Me State, whatever. Anyway, there's one state where the state slogan is "Show Me."
Show me.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Do you think Elon Musk is the smartest person that's ever lived?
I hope not. I mean, he's really smart. He reminds me of Thomas Edison. I think that was. Have you read anything about Thomas Edison?
Yeah.
I mean, he invented the phonograph, the pictograph. He was.
Light bulb.
He also owned a cement company. The
didn't
light
know
bulb. He was trying to come up with like an organic version of rubber right before he died.
Wow.
I mean, like we know him for a few things, but he was literally like all over the place.
Didn't he have so many patents?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I think he averaged something like 4 patents a day or some crazy number like that. It's like.
I didn't know it was that.
And maybe that's an exaggeration, but I remember the number being
I'm sure.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's one a day, that's nuts.
Yeah, it's nuts. But I listened to this autobiography of him. Not autobiography, but biography of him. And it was just amazing to hear about his life and all the things that he did. I mean, he's like, going out to watch the solar eclipse, and he's like, he's creating the generators and the lights and the electrical distribution center for like an area of Manhattan. He's creating batteries for submarines. Just
he's the one that did AC, right? Like.
Well, yeah, Nikola Tesla was a big proponent of AC, and Thomas Edison was a very big proponent of DC.
Oh, DC. So
and so.
Sorry, I got the two.
Yeah, but Thomas Edison did create an execution chair that used AC current as a way to show you how dangerous AC was.
Yeah, I remember. I think there was a documentary on Netflix that I was watching. He also killed an elephant or something with AC as well, right?
Oh, did he? I don't remember
with DC.
That may be.
Yeah, just to show like it's just way too powerful for like humans to be using safely.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that's actually like interesting topic. Like AC versus DC. Like, do you really think like Thomas Edison's idea was better than Tesla's, or do you just think like he just used his influence to make sure that it was the one that was more widely used?
Well, I mean, I think the problem was that Edison was very much a practical person. He didn't care much about theory.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that DC is hard to transmit over long distances, but AC is really easy.
Uh-huh.
So, I think this is a case where you just kind of like have stubborn people. The same thing that made him successful also keeps him from growing in certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, whenever it's your belief against the world that allows for you to keep charging forward, at some point you're going to believe something that's going to hold you back.
Right.
And being able to figure out that wisdom that allows for you to know and you keep charging forward versus listening to other people. I mean, I don't know how you develop that because, I don't know how you develop that. But I think that's the key thing, right? I mean, obviously, this would have been a good time for Edison to kind of join forces with Tesla. But
yeah. This is a great conversation. Like this is a good conversation.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to talk anytime. I really enjoyed the conversation as well. So
I'll let you know of those.
Could we exchange contact info?
Sure. I think you might have my number.